right, welcome back everybody to another show of Flyway Connections. I'm here with my buddy Joe. Joe.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
So today we're gonna talk about decoys. We're not gonna get too crazy in depth in it, especially not me. Anyways, I'm not an expert at it at all. Um, Joe has definitely done a lot more with decoys. Has done with painting, maintenance, as far as figuring out spreads. That you might get a little bit more. We're just kind of going off our experience and our hunts in the past years and see how it goes. So, as far as decoys, Joe, what do you want to start off with as far as like setting up?
Well, I mean, before you get to setting up, you need to realize, I think you need to realize what's your budget, right? Just going, this episode's kind of caveat off in our top five. What's your budget for decoys? What's your budget for waterfowling? Because decoys can, everything else in this sport, can get pretty expensive pretty quick. So I think it's kind of where you're going to hunt. Are you hunting dry fields? Are you hunting timber? Are you hunting public marsh? Are you hunting a lease in a flooded farm field? If it's bean, corn, or rice. And if it is the public land, how far do you have to walk? Because me and you, when we were humping those things out in the marsh,
Yeah,
and you might have to walk a mile and a half, with decoys, the decoy weights. I mean, when you're looking at them, they don't look heavy, but you start adding them up, they get heavy. So I think it's kind of where you're gonna hunt.
Yeah, go ahead.
I say that. I usually hunt. When I'm hunting the timber, I hunt. I can get away hunting a little bit less. I'll hunt no more than about 18 I use usually, and then some spinning wings. That's another thing, spinning wing decoys, movement decoys. How much, what is there out there? Just a lot to it.
So I know. So as far as the decoys, and we kind of talked about this in the top five. You said you think people kill with blow up decoys.
Yeah, the inflatable. I think the brand Cherokee is inflatable. They used to use they make inflatable decoys, kind of like the old, those old clown punching bags.
Yeah.
As a kid, it's the same concept as that. They use a little bit of sand on the bottom to stabilize them, and they're the same material. I mean, they work. You watch videos of Rick Dunn from Echo and the Echo Boy, and Freddie King from the Echo Boy videos. They're hunting, hunting videos. I think they're called the Mallard Madness, and that's all they use. And I mean, those boys get after it.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm thinking about is for people who are getting into waterfowl, pricing wise. Like, I need to really go out there and spend. I mean, because I've seen some of the
you
have the Tangle Frees, and then I've seen some cheaper ones that I've got, and the Tangle Free ones in detail look way realer. Obviously, the more real, the more birds. Is that usually how it works?
So I would. I'm kind of torn by this. So I would like to say yeah, but truly in my heart, no. Because I'm telling so every flyway you go to, there's kind of there's a history of old schoolness. It may be some people hand carved decoys. Now you try to hunt over those, they're expensive. You're paying in the thousands, hundreds per decoy.
That wood decoys.
Yeah, those wood decoys. But back here in Louisiana, I mean, people used to paint milk jugs and they still do milk jugs and Coke bottles, the liter Coke or 2 liter Coke bottles, and use those as filler decoys. I mean, it's not the only thing they're using. They're using them as fillers, mixed in with to make it look a bigger spread. Back on the West Coast where I'm from, The old tire decoy was a big thing. They used to take a tire,
Yeah.
cut it into 4 sections, flip it inside out, so it kind of has that hump back, like like a duck sitting on the water. Paint it whatever color, put it on some a piece of redwood, because to keep buoyancy, and they'd float it like that. I mean, that was their poor man decoy, their poor man filler decoy. Um, the big thing I'm gonna say is, depending where you're hunting, I mean, just have a decoy. I think we were talking to Stump, and like he said, he would pay more in a duck call than he would a decoy. There's some people, you always hear the argument. Some people say, you know, you don't need decoys as long as you're calling. And there's some people say you don't need calls. I think it's a 50-50 thing. You need both of them, especially later in the season. The more ducks get get educated, especially the more south you are in your flyways. The big thing is have something. Now, you said you're cheaper decoys, like kind of like you. The Flambos, those Cherokee decoys. With some, I mean,
I saw some blow up ones online. Those are pretty cheap.
Yeah, I mean, some of those decoys, they're cheap. The game winners from the Academy brand, they're good. I have some game winners myself, mixed in as fillers. They're not bad decoys. They're just not, they might not last as long, and it has to do with quality of material. The paint, they'll probably start chipping a little bit sooner than the others. They might crack. That's what I've noticed, especially with some of my game winners.
Yeah.
Is that first season I get them, it's not bad, but a season or two down the line, that thinner plastic, a little bit cheap, it starts to crack, starts getting holes. You have buddies that shoot them.
Yeah.
Oh man, so it's funny, and we'll talk about this a little bit later about decoy, what I do for decoy maintenance. But I was all week.
Did we even talk? Did we ever talk about how I shot your decoy?
Yeah, we talked about how you shot my my lucky duck.
The lucky duck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but now I was doing some maintenance on some of the decoys, and one of my avian X's. I'm pretty sure.
That was Gilbert.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Gilbert. I'm pretty sure Gilbert will say it was you. Yeah, someone drilled my hen Woody I had of an avian X.
Yeah, I'm not that.
But that goes to say for avian X, one pellet penetrated it. The other one just kind of scuffed it up a little bit. And I finished that whole season not even knowing that. Yeah. Until I started actually doing maintenance, cleaning them up, touching paint. I'm like, oh, smack.
Yeah.
Somebody freaking shot this. So it goes to quality. And like I said, I have a variety. I have some high-end ones. I have, what I consider high-end, I think, is your Avian X, your Lucky Ducks. They just released decoys in the last 3 years that are kind of on the high-end pricey, but they last. Dakotas, Hardcore, those brands that I kind of consider the Greenhead Gears are kind of your higher end. Then you have kind of your mid range, but still real good quality, like your Tangle Free. Right, let me pop this Tangle Free sweater right quick. Check, they just released a new line of clothing and stuff. Check their website out. But the Tangle Free ones, they're budget friendly. I mean, they're not the cheapest things in the world. They're not the most expensive, but they're kind of in that middle with quality.
I mean, yeah, I've seen them. They look good.
They're good. And then you have, your, I'd say the mid-level, your Zincs, which, are the same molds as your Avian X's. And then you have, your Flambeau, your Cherokees, they're your lower end ones. So it's kind of knowing where you're hunting and what your budget is. I would say for me personally, if I'm hunting in, we'll say, public timber,
Yeah.
I would say, hey, you could probably afford to go high end 2 dozen. You're probably gonna spend $150 on some decoys, some wood ducks and mallards for the timber, and maybe a gadwall, however you want to split it up. Like I said, always match your hatch, and you'll be fine. You go hunt in the rice fields on a lease or a cornfield, or even a dry field, you're probably needing a little bit more. I'd say I'd go with, some high end ones, maybe 1 or 2 dozen, and then have another 1 or 2 dozen of cheaper ones, to make it look like a bigger, to make it look bigger, but not. Um,
So how important is it to make your decoy look bigger, or
does the spread
is
look
it just
bigger?
like situation where like the situation you're in, or
I think it's in a situation in the time of the year. And I don't know how much you've noticed when we're hunting this year. Earlier in the season, I was hunting um, bigger spreads for the ducks, and then I would use geese to kind of complement them, especially down there in Lacassine. So then during the later in the season, I kind of shrunk down my spread and made it look like more breeding pairs. Kind of early in the season they're coming down here to Louisiana, big migrational groups. Um, Probably January, late December, they're starting to break off in those breeding pairs, and that's when I would shrink down my decoy size. So I think I was hunting 50 decoys, and I'd probably think towards the end I'd only bring like 24, 12 sometimes, and then a half dozen geese. And then so definitely depending on later season. And later in the season, I what the heck happened there?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
try to like take this beating heart off the.
yeah, it pops up my screen. Later,
Go ahead.
later. I mean, I love the conversation too. Uh, Later in the season, I stopped using spinning wing decoys. And then the motion decoy, I didn't use as much motion wing decoys. You know,
So
um,
as far as decoys, how real can they get? As far as like, is there decoys with feathers?
I mean, I've actually seen them. There's, and I've seen them more for dry field and goose hunting. People use mounts.
Mm.
They go mount, a goose mount,
Yeah.
and instead of goose mount, I mean, it's not meant to be hung on the wall. They have a stake on it, and they put it in the ground, and
Oh,
it's
nice.
yeah. I mean, that's a little pricey for me.
Yeah, it's expensive now.
Yeah,
Like, or
and I
expensive.
think the most I've ever seen someone use is 12 of them, and I was like, man, you're balling.
Yeah. And also for the, I guess, for the listeners, um, who have never, I guess, hunted any game, and they're getting, let's say, waterfowl. Um, the taxidermist can get expensive.
Yeah, oh yeah, I can. This year got kind of prizes for me.
Yeah.
Um,
That's another one we could talk about too. Is like in the future, because I just thought about it, like taxidermists, and as far as keeping your duck, because you
yeah,
can put a duck in the refrigerator. I think you wrap it with paper towels or something. Or
yeah. I mean, I've heard paper towels. I usually do mine in saran wrap and newspaper.
yeah, and then or yeah, newspaper. I guess
Uh,
not paper towels because they stick or something.
yeah, I mean,
Hold it up to a year, and then taxidermist
yeah, that's a whole different rabbit hole.
will. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, the ducks. I mean, it really depends on where you're hunting at. I'm gonna always say this: A, if you are a public land grinder, I wouldn't go over 24. I mean, unless you had a boat to carry all these in. But if you're how we were in the P row or walking in where you're space conscious, I'd go 24. I mean, even 12 to 24. And it,
So
um,
you said 12 to 24 decoy spread, right?
yeah,
As far and as far as 12 to 24, you you want to mix I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it depends where you hunt.
Smaller ducks with big necks.
If you're hunting the flooded timber of Arkansas and all you're seeing is mallards, I mean, you're not going to put a widgeon decoy in there. You're not going to put a canvasback in the timber. But I mean, like for Lackasine, uh, yeah, I mean, I'm mentioning places that I hunt a lot, or that we did this past season. Um,
And I mean, it goes back to what we said earlier: match the hatch.
Match the hatch. I would take pintails. I took widgeon. I kind of filled it with teal, and I had some mallards. This year, a lot of those mallard decoys that I have, kind of, I think I'm up to 75 decoy spread right now. Some of those mallard decoys, I'm painting to divers. You know, I think I'm using the Dixie decoy painting kits, and I'm going to shout out to them. They're veteran owned. And I'm going to, what do you call it? Paint it, turn some of those mallard drakes into redheads and ringnecks. I'm leaving the hens because the hens are multi-purpose. I mean, a hen mallard down here in the early season, teal season, they look like a Magnum teal decoy. They also look like a model duck. Um, it's kind of like it's a duck. It's a subspecies of the mallard. You see them a lot here in Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama. The Gulf Coast, and they usually they can stay here year round, or they bounce kind of here from here to Mexico. Kind of like on the East Coast, they have the black duck, which just looks like a dark hen mallard. The drakes and the hens look a lot alike. There's a little bit of bill. The drakes for both of those ducks usually have a nice yellow bill, where the hens you have a more yellow greenish dingy bill with a little bit of black mixed in there, sprinkled in there.
So what was it? Kind of looks like what, Daffy Duck or whatever, just a black duck with.
No, it looks like the black ducks look like a dark hen mallard.
Okay.
The speculum's a little bit different on the wing. Then I mean, just recently this year, while we were talking to Chelsea about her getting the 41 almost, 6 birds away. This year in North America, it went up to the 42. The more biologists up here are recognizing what they call the Mexican duck or the Mexican mallard, which is another subspecies of a mallard, which it looks like a black duck, mottled duck, hen mallard mix type bird, which is kind of it's different. It's another like subspecies of the mallard that it usually stayed down in Central America, Mexico area. Now it's starting to come up with Americans anymore. I've never shot one. I've never even seen one besides the internet.
I'm kind of intrigued now.
Yeah. So yeah, I back to the topic is so I'll keep those hen mallards and I use them for teal season during teal season. Like I said, for big to look like big teal to kind of get their attention from a distance. And during teal season, the mottled ducks are thick down here. And then this year, I'm gonna paint some of those mallards to be a little bit of a diver spread. And then days I did notice. I think personally, I'm like I said, I'm by no means an expert, but I think ducks are attracted to black and white. The black and white contrast, especially off the water. They look like pintails. There's a lot of because I think because there is a lot of ducks in nature that have those color contrasts. Pintails, skull, ringnecks, canvasbacks, redheads, mallards have some of the white. Widgeon have a little bit of white on them. Spoonbills have the white and black.
So
So,
from your experience, as far as decoying, which bird seems to decoy the best?
oh, probably spoonbill and gadwall.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, I, you know, there's always that joke of Hollywood. Spoonbills are Hollywoods because they'll come in there like they're about to crash a party. You know, they don't care. They see them, no quacking whatsoever. They're coming in just wings cup, and they don't care. Gadwall could take some a little bit of calling, but they're really receptive to a little bit of noise. You make a little bit of light quacking. You can get on the whistle and kind of give them that little bit
Yeah.
sound because the drakes make a really interesting sound. It's kind of like it's like a horn almost. It's real like a
A
mutter
horn?
down. Yes,
Like a car horn?
yeah, kind of. I know some places they call them cab drivers because they're beep, 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 make a weird sound like that. But when they see decoys and a little bit of calling, they get pretty comfortable pretty quick, and they'll finish pretty nice. But I've even seen diver ducks. I think almost zero calling on a diver duck is even needed, and they're all off of sight.
Yeah.
I'll grunt into a call a little bit for them, but most of the time, if they see that black and white contrast off the water, they're like, "Oh, friends! I like friends." And they're coming. They're coming in hot and low, fast, and fun to shoot. So yeah, like I said, depending on how you're going into the woods or into the marsh wherever you're hunting, if you're going in by boat, hey, you might can afford to take 5, 6, 7 dozen in. If you're hunting a dry field, I mean those dry fields, big fields for geese and duck, I mean they need 10, 12 dozen decoys, to imitate what a feed is. But you could drive into a dry field, set up, and drive out. Um, I think for most of our listeners here, I'm assuming that either they're hunting some type of public land. Man, six, 12, 24 decoys. So 24. Spread them out between a couple buddies and carry them in. It's gonna be plenty enough. With that and some movement, I think that's one. Getting going to kind of the next topic is movement. I think that's probably the most underrated thing that people don't think about when it comes to decoys.
Yeah, and I would just say from my early, I guess, waterfowl career, I definitely see movement. I want to say gaining more interest, birds gaining more interest to the movement than just setting up some decoys out there. I think it's just that visual look. For instance, like wood ducks, you could splash the water
Yeah,
and they'll come around, and it's me. I told you this. To me, I want to get like a move. I want moving ducks. I asked
yeah,
you about uh the the duck that like spits water out.
yeah. And all those are good, and I like them all. But when it comes to movement, and I think people overlook it sometimes. And I've done it out of sheer laziness, to be honest with
Yeah,
you. And early in the season, I can get away with it. Because all those birds aren't educated. But think about if you went to the mall, right? And, you're out there in the Fort Worth, Dallas area,
uh-huh.
big metropolitan area. You go to the mall. You walk into that mall, and everyone is frozen like mannequins. There's 200 people in that mall, and they're frozen like mannequins. What would you do?
I
You wouldn't walk in there like you're
yeah,
like normal and just go about your business. You'd kind of stop, look,
going on here.
and we'd probably head back to your car as quick as possible.
Yeah, or
You know,
it's like a big flash. Was it the flash dance or what they
yeah.
do?
And then you're probably people who are walking in there. You're like, hey, I don't know what's going on. Everyone in there, but you can hightail out of here.
Yeah,
It's the same thing with ducks. I mean, um, I say a lot of things. There's 2 times a duck gets still and doesn't make noise is when they're scared and they're about to flush.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you want to imitate them in the wild. We're trying to trick these ducks. Like I said, I always say that hatch from Canada, fly all the way down here to Louisiana, and Central Texas. We're trying to trick them and say these plastic objects and me on this either wood or acrylic caul with a mylar reed and cork is real birds. So movement, and that could be from spinning wing decoys. And there's a lot of great ones, and a lot of great brands. And I mix brands. I'm not a solid one brand type of guy. I mean, I usually have Lucky Ducks.
Yeah,
I like the Lucky Ducks for the spinning wing.
I will say, as far as the Lucky Ducks, as the detail on those are amazing.
I usually run some Lucky Duck HDs. And then you have Mojo. I love the Mojo Flocka Flickers. They give just a little bit of movement on the water, and it's a little flicker of wing beats in the water, and some of them, I think, they vibrate and they agitate the water a little bit, so the water is moving. It's moving. It's not just making ripples in the water. Those ripples are moving your decoys as well that are anchored down. So now they're kind of floating and bobbing a little bit.
Yeah.
Some of those butt up ripplers, the one that you were talking about, the ones that kind of spit the water up. I mean, if you see ducks on a big feed, they're moving, they're diving down, kicking water up. I mean, they just like moving. They want to see those ducks move. They want to see them making a little bit of noise, happy. Movement. Geese is a little different. People tell you, hey, the geese don't like them, that crazy movement like that, especially spinning wing decoys. That's what people have them on remotes, in those dry fields, and even in over water. Those spinning wing decoys early in the season, the geese might not care about them that much, but later in the season, usually your second split, that mid-December split, they start getting, geese are smart. They get hip to the game. They're like, hey, every time we come around, these spinning wing decoys, they're in the air just spinning around. Usually, what do you call it? They'll flare them, or they'll kind of, maybe that's not it. That's not what we want. I think the most underutilized moving decoy or decoy movement apparatus is a jerk string.
Yeah, I actually do like the jerk string. The only thing I would say that kind of sucks about it is, I mean, you're constantly...
Yeah, you're pulling on it, and I hate... when I say I get lazy, I hate setting them up. Man, I mean, I have a nice one from Rig'em It's I think it's a 12 duck jerk string spread where I could, it kind of like branches off. So it's not like 12 ducks in a row. It branches off where I can mix them up into the spread, and when I jerk on them and pull them, they're pulling in the middle on the edges of the spread, and it makes it. I think it makes it really come alive real good.
So just obviously for people who don't understand, I'm gonna kind of do this. You'll hear me throughout the shows, but a jerk string is basically like a spider web connected to multiple decoys, linked to one point of string that leads to you, and you're pulling.
Yeah, that the one I have. But if you go to if the viewers go buy a typical Rig'em,
you can make one.
You can make one. But most of the time they're a straight line. I mean, I have a little higher end one from Rig'em. Shout out to them. They kind of branches off, spiders off to multiple, but your general jerk string is an anchor point, either a boat anchor or some type of anchoring device, some weight, usually about no more than 5 pounds, connected to a bungee or a spring, depending if you want to make your own. And that kind of gives it that elasticity to it.
Yeah, that bounce back.
Yeah. And then usually from there, it's either some bank cord, trout line cord, or up paracord, and it's looped off or tied off to any. I mean, 3 to 5 to 6 decoys. The one I have, like I said, like you said, it kind of branches off and spiders off, so I can intermix it with the whole decoy, with all the decoys, and that movement kind of gets. I think it does a couple things.
Yeah.
It agitates the water. It gets the ducks moving around. And when you yank on it real hard, I've actually seen this in the wild. I'm kind of scouting ducks. Is especially in a they'll get in a row. It'll kind of look like one duck chasing the other, just chasing it off of food or off of a hen. It kind of gives it that that real hard jerk, gives it that little chasing motion. And usually a more dominant duck or dominant drake or hen is either chasing it off of food or, like I said, their potential mate for the season. But I mean, I think that's I think a jerk string is the cheapest and probably the most efficient way to get movement in your decoy spread.
Yeah, I will say too. I will say that too, just from seeing it firsthand, especially with them wood ducks.
Yeah.
And another thing is when you're using the jerk string, and I learned this from you, don't overdo it. There's times to do it, and there's times not to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
I guess you got to see what the birds want and what they don't.
Yeah.
One thing we did say earlier is match the hatch. I usually, to me, growing up, it was like it's an angler's term because match the hatch. You match the food that's there for the fish or whatever, and that's what type of lure, soft plastic or whatever you use, jig. You kind of want colors. You kind of want to match. So when we say match the hatch, it's the same thing, but as far as the birds, what type of birds are there? What do we see as far as in the timbers? What type of birds you gonna get, or let's say in open water, or so it's just one of those things. I think the only one I would say is a multi-purpose, maybe a coot. I don't know.
Yeah, coot. Yeah, those go under what confidence decoys. I've seen people use cranes or take those flamingos, your lawn flamingo.
Yeah,
and I've seen people spray them white and use them as those, put them out there as cranes or egrets out there. But you said match your hatch. In that more open area, I'm probably going to use more pintails, more gadwalls. I'll use anywhere as fillers, but more of those black and white ducks for color contrast in the like open marsh, open lakes. In that timber, I'm going to use whatever duck species I see. Usually in the timber, I'm shooting mallards or wood ducks down here and occasional gadwall. So I'm usually using those 3 decoys. I shoot most of my ducks I'm shooting in the timber are wood ducks. So I hunt usually 12 wood ducks with anywhere from a pair of 2 mallards, a drake and a hen, or I'll put 2 drakes and a hen out there, of mallards. And then, with that timber, I'm using more movement. I'm putting 2 mojo or lucky ducks out there. I'm using, what do you call it? The jerk strings, because, you have that obstructive timber there, the ducks are flying around, so they can see the decoys. They're going to see decoys more, I think, with movement. I'm using movement and sound for more of the attraction, in the timber. I mean,
So, and I will say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. We're saying match the hatch, and yes, it's not uncommon, like to see a diver duck in, a water hole or the timber or whatever. But as far as matching the hatch, you want to put whatever birds are there.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, we saw, was it a merganser or whatever?
Yeah, we saw mergansers in the timber, and you do see them later. I haven't ever proven this, but I've hunted different flyways, and it's always the same. Later in the season, mergansers and wood ducks, they have to hang out together, travel together.
Yeah.
Because I shoot a lot of mergansers in my wood duck holes. Now this is even like North Carolina days of hunting. Even down here in Louisiana, same way. Later in the season, I'll shoot those mergansers coming in the wood duck holes. But a lot of those times, I have seen the divers in the timber, it's not like your traditional Arkansas timber. It's, when I'm hunting those little oxbows off of big lakes, kind of like, Bundick, where, they might be hanging out in the lake. This year at Bundicks, they had they got, for some reason, there was a huge group of raft of bluebills and scallops that just stayed there all season and got, slowly picked off, by their one two bird limits. But
yeah, and it's vice versa. I mean, you said, I mean, you've seen wood ducks when we go to Lackison. And
yeah, always during teal season. I don't know why. That's for some reason the wood ducks love the teal during September teal season.
Yeah.
I always make that joke. What does a wood duck sound like during teal season? Splash.
That's a no-no, though.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
But yeah, so I mean, it's all common sense. Have something out there that looks like a duck to get their attention. And that's what it comes down to. Like obviously, like I said, going back to the price point of decoys, I think your higher end decoys, yes, they look super realistic, but there's a higher quality of paint and plastic they're using. So I think they're gonna last longer with less maintenance. Where your cheaper decoys, you're gonna have the plastic's gonna crack on them more, so you're over there siliconing the holes up or siliconing the cracks up. The paint's gonna chip more, so you're touching them up with paint or whatnot. And man, this year it took me 2 days to go through all 70 some of my decoys. I did in like 3-hour increments, but I mean.
So I will say for the listeners, and for this is for the new waterfowler. I mean, like you said, jugs work, but you got to think about, or even cheap decoys work.
Yeah,
that longevity. I mean, you're buying the quality of the, I guess the toughness or the, as far as like the material paint, how long it's gonna last, because you do have to repaint these for, if they don't look good for during the off season for maintenance, you have to clean them off and stuff. So I know it's not just throw the decoys in like I do, throw the decoys in my garage, and I haven't touched them since, but it was my first season, so
yeah. I mean, I'm a duck hunting nerd, man. Like, when I get bored and I'll miss it, so I'm like, oh, let me go tinker with my duck hunting stuff. Yeah. I get bored. Let me go repack my blind bag, make sure it's packed the best I can. Let me go look at these decoys and make sure. Let me go rebrush my blinds. I got to do it in August, getting ready for teal season. That's kind of that's just me. I get infatuated with it.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. That I kind of, when I got into waterfowl, I kind of been doing that as far as my waders. I'm in the process of building me I guess a wader stand.
Yeah.
PVC pipe, and there's a little PVC pipe that pops out that I can put a vacuum in.
So to dry them out.
Yeah, it blows the air and stuff. So I mean, I'm pretty there. Next thing I'm gonna get is definitely gonna get some more decoys. Ones, and then I do want to get some type of moving decoys, whether it be vibrating or something. So I'm gonna get that next. But as far as decoys, because I think when you visually see a decoy, you just see what's on the water. When you set up a decoy, you always use a weight, or can you just throw the decoy out there?
Yeah. I mean, I use a weight system. Oh man, that is another overlooked thing. And you see me, like, man, there is nothing more that just gets like, you want to see me have a freak? I'm a pretty calm person, I think. But you want to see me have a freak out?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's like when I think I told you too. It's like when you're a kid and you see your dad like, and you don't want to say nothing, like, decoy, man, you can.
Man, you use.
I kind of felt bad too because I brought my decoys. They got the bad.
I have some. I've done the same thing, man. Like, it's not a big deal. But 3 a.m. when you're hunting public land, it gets frustrating. I mean, spend a little bit of money on your whatever decoy system, any weight system you're going to use, because like I said, when they get tangled up, man, I can get frustrated. I like the Texas rigs.
So what are the difference as far as the setups as far
So
as like
yeah, so you have the what they call a Texas rig, which usually uses a
like a slip shot?
like a slipshot type weight on either monofilament or coated cable, and it's kind of like a loop where I can grab the loop and it slides freely on a fishing snap swivel that's connected to the decoy, and I can D-ring them up. I like the coated cable the best because it doesn't have line memory. Monofilament sometimes gets line memory when you kink it, and the kink will stay in there, or if it gets wrapped around something. Coated cable, I think there's plenty of good brands that make some. Lifetime Decoys makes great cables. Rig 'em Right, and Tangle Free. I mean, those are top three. And if you look at those three brands, which I like all of them, once again, Tangle Free. But Rig 'em Right helps out Val and Honor, and Lucky Duck actually helps out Val and Honor a lot, and so does Tangle Free. Helps out Val and Honor a lot. But all three of those companies have become like huge waterfowl gear companies, and it all started off of what their names sound like: Rig 'em Right, decoy rig, Tangle Free, coated cable that's not going to tangle. Lifetime Decoys, they started off making Texas rigs. Personally, for me, I like the Tangle Free ones a little bit better, and it has to do with the weight. They use more of like a pencil, real thin weight.
So it doesn't get stuck like it's not like a teardrop on
yeah, where it's getting when I'm moving decoys in the middle of the hunt, or when at the end I'm packing them in, they're not getting stuck on the all the vegetation on the bottom of the marsh, and I'm now bringing all that vegetation in the creek boats, and now the creek boats are messier and everything's getting sloppy. There's water with guns, and so I do like the Tangle Free ones, but I do have Rig 'em Rights. I use Rig 'em Rights. I make sure Rig 'em Rights and Tangle Frees.
So lengthwise,
yes, obviously that matters. It depends on where you're hunting at. Usually, for the longer length, deeper water, people, the other weight system people use what they call keel weights, where they wrap them around the keel, and it's the weight's kind of like a pliable lead.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of bend it around the keel, then J hook it. I've seen, and they wrap around the keel. Keel weights, there's a lot of different ones. I've seen the ones where you can bend them around the keel. I've also seen ones where it's kind of like a J. It's like a big lead J on a spring.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and those work real good if you want to kind of do a cheap way of a jerk cord, because you really don't need that bungee and the jerk cord. You just need like an anchor point and some bank cord wrapped around the head of the decoy. Pull that spring on the anchor line will act as this little bungee. So
you always want, because this is always it's just a weird question, even though it's probably something simple, but it's just me overthinking it. Do you always you want your weight to touch the ground? Because I'm thinking open water, let's say if you're in the Pacific Flyway.
There's different rigs they use. Yes, for me, yes, I always want my weight, because I don't want my decoys to float off. When you're hunting those divers in those lakes, they use what they call a long lines. And I guess for guys, our guys are just getting into duck hunting. Think of it as your trout line.
Okay.
A trout line setup. You're kind of setting up the weight. It's the same, where it's multiple hooks with just weighted points on a long line. So they'll put maybe 12 decoys on a line, and there's a weight line on the back end, and then in the middle with an anchor point somewhere on the lead end. And they'll put anywhere. I mean, I've seen them anywhere from 12 to 20 something decoys on one line. You usually see those more on when people are targeting divers, and they're on deeper water. I mean, I have seen people, especially out in the Catahoula area of Louisiana, and I know I mentioned a lot of areas, but those are the areas I hunt. They just they'll take Dixie cups and fill them with cement, and they'll put the line with like a washer in the Dixie cup, and then when the cement hardens, you have this Dixie cup with this washer stuck in it, and they'll drop that off a spool of line, and then whenever that spool line hits bottom, they cut it, and that's where they'll tie it off at.
They'll tie the decoy off.
Yeah, they'll tie the long line off to it. And I've even seen that for little singles where they'll kind of make like a long, anchor line from it, a washer in a concrete Dixie cup, and then they'll do multiple points. A lot of times I see those is on lakes, deep lakes, where they're going to keep their decoys out there for the whole season. And that goes back to if you can keep your decoys out there for the whole season. Like when I was a kid and hunting those clubs, we had 500 decoy spreads in some big rice fields, flooded rice fields.
You just left it out there. Yeah, I could imagine how much somebody's taking 500 decoys. I mean, took how many decoys? I mean, I would say how many decoys do we?
The most I hunt with in public land is 24.
Yeah, that was that's kicking our butt. You know what I mean? So I mean, if people don't know, it is a grind out there. You do have to set up.
So when I was a kid hunting those flooded rice fields, and that's what we did in September. Yeah. I think we sometimes put them out before they even flooded the field. We'd go out there, set them on the weight, on the keel weights, and so we could drive a trailer out there, put all these decoys out there. Once we were done, like a couple days later, they'd flood the field and the decoys, would float up. We'd go back up and overturn, make the ones that end up on their side. We'd right side up them. But there's some benefits and some negatives. Some cons to leaving your decoys out there all season.
When people taking them?
Yeah, but in those public areas, yes. In the private areas, we didn't see that too much. There are private clubs that we're hunting. But I think the biggest one is, when you're hunting stale birds, they see the same decoy spread over and over and over again. Luckily, where a couple of some of our clubs were, it was a traffic area, so it was a big migration. So we're getting fresh birds every week or so. The biggest one goes to what's going to lead us to our end discussion of this topic is decoy maintenance. Keeping them out there all season. You get that they get dingy, the rain, the sleet, pollen. If you keep them out there in the September teal season, they get that mold, that kind of like that dingy mold to them. When you pull them out, you'll see the what do you call it? Like the little gunk line where it looks kind of muddy. And just kind of dingy. You got to clean them. I think after you leave them out there all season, that's probably the worst. I just bought some used decoys so I could turn into some for teal season. There were a bunch of used mallard decoys. I'm using them for teal season, and I'm painting them into diver ducks.
Yeah.
And the guy, he left them out. He was hunting a lease, and he left them out there all season. Well, when I'm washing them, I'm out there with a brush just scraping off all that nasty gunk. So that's something you got to think of, and that goes to your longevity of your decoys. I mean,
so how do you So how often do you do maintenance? You do it right after a hunt, or you do it at the end of the season?
After a hunt, depending where I'm hunting at, if it mucks them up a lot, I might take the hose and knock some of like the big clumps of mud off.
So it
Um,
just looks like you're just spraying them down, getting
yeah, getting any muck off of them. At the end of the season, usually, but usually by the end of the season, I'm kind of burnt out on duck hunting. I mean, I love it, but then the end of the season, I'm like, that next weekend when I'm sleeping in, not waking up at 2 in the morning, I'm like, that's nice.
yeah.
So I'll usually wait a month, 2, 3, 4, 6
Yeah.
before I start getting after it. And sometimes I save it. So I'm like, oh man, when I'm really missing duck hunting,
Yeah.
I'll get out there and on the nice day, I'll clean my decoys and some of my gear. So I mean, I did it last weekend, and I'll take a bucket and kind of like you're washing your car. I'll take a bucket, put Dawn dish soap in there, and I'll take a hard bristle brush, and I'll take my pressure washer and I'll pressure wash any of that caked on mildew type muck on there, and I'll any of the mud that gets stuck in some of the on some of the feathered detailed crevices, and then after that, I'll take that Dawn dish soap, really get it, scrubbing any of that debris off of. I'll wash it one more time, and then when I finish them off, I put Armor All on them.
Armor All, nice.
Yeah, I think the Armor All, one, it gives it a little bit of UV protection. Kind of like your dashboard, you put Armor All because it's going to be in the sun. Those decoys from the sun a lot. So a little bit of UV protection, and I think it gives it a little pop to the color. Mm-hmm. When the color starts getting a little dingy, brings a little bit of life back. Kind of like your old that old car you had in high school.
Yeah.
When you want to hit that dash to make it look clean, or kind of like when you're like, hey, my rims are looking a little dingy. Let me hit them tires up, make it look clean. And then with new decoys, and then once a year, I take I'll buy a couple cans of matte enamel clear paint, and I'll evenly spray 1 to 2 coats of clear enamel on my decoys. I mean, I'm pretty sure maybe some decoy companies are cringe when they hear that, but I think it keeps a lot of that gunk from sticking to the decoy. Kind of gives it a barrier, and it kind of helps. It's a little bit of protective barrier for the paint, so the paint's not getting as dingy. And kind of when the decoys are bumping, when I have them on my D rings, that that clear coat enamel is kind of protecting the paint from chipping as quick. Okay. It might, and it just might me just overthinking it, but I think it might give my decoys 1 to 2 more seasons. Instead of 4 seasons with decoys, I might get 6, 7 seasons out of them. And that's money I can spend somewhere else. Like I said, this sport's getting expensive. It ain't cheap. I mean, let's be straight up for the new guys. Even when you cut corners or go on a budget, shotgun waders, shotgun shells, ammo now. I mean, ammo's crazy. Even cheap steel ammo, you're still paying $12, $15 a box.
Yeah. So, and I will say, and like you said, obviously we're no experts, and we would love to have a decoy person on the show so they can kind of school us.
Yeah.
Listeners, get a hold of us, and we'll be more than happy to get you on the show so you can school us and tell us how bad of an idea that was, or if it's a good idea. I don't know. It's, to me, it's common sense. To me, it makes sense to keep that longevity for your decoys. But when you're looking at decoy maintenance, just for my understanding, everybody, all the listeners understand, you're washing them, repainting them.
Yeah, I'm touching the paint up.
Yeah, checking the your line.
Making sure no cracks. Make sure there's no BB holes that my buddies shot.
Yeah.
And if the BB hole does penetrate, I'm taking a little bit of silicone. I like to use Flex Seal, a little bit of clear Flex Seal or black Flex Seal. and just take it on a popsicle stick or even like a Q-tip and just kind of patch that little hole up. I try to keep all that minimal. I don't want to use a lot of gunk on it. I just want to just use enough to paint it or touch it up so it doesn't sink to the bottom. And when I am painting them, I mean, I like using Dixie Decoys paint kits. Some people, I think, because it comes in a kit, it's the colors I need. I'm buying their Diver Duck kit where it's for painting redheads and canvas backs, and the it has the whites and the blues and the grays and the reds, so I could paint a canvas back or redhead, a reneck, or a ska or dogre or bluebill, whatever neck of the woods or flyway hunt you want to call them. But yeah, so I can paint those. It's kind of like a one-stop shop for paint. It's only $24. It's not super expensive, not super cheap. It's good quality stuff. And then, putting a little bit of UV protection on it. If I'm just doing simple touch-ups, paint markers. Man, paint markers for like the bills, around the neck area, or some of those. I don't know what brand makes the paint markers, but some of those little paint markers for your finer detail, or even like a black Sharpie works real well.
Yeah. So I mean, I will end with this, unless you have anything else. When you're going out there as a brand new waterfowler, obviously pricing is going to be a problem, and it was for me. Some people can't afford it. Your cheaper decoys are going to work, but then you got to think about the longevity. If you have the money, spend the money for better quality. I think some of the stuff that we do in waterfowl, whether it be shotguns, whether it be shells, whether it be waders, decoys, blind bags, anything like that, I think that they're all have a specific need as far as how much you want to spend. We've talked to them in previous shows, so we're not going to get too into it. But I will say that I think decoys is something for me anyways, not everybody, because I bought cheap decoys. They work. They do what they need to be done, what needs to be done. But now talking to you, I'm thinking about, well, I want longevity, because if I'm buying decoys every year because these, I don't know, no longer work or they just get busted up, I could probably salvage them, buy some, I don't know, some plastic mold or something, fix them. But who really wants to do that?
Yeah.
It's just up to you how much you want to get into it. But
yeah, I mean, I like I said, not beat a dead horse. I think painting, man, you can do that on your own.
yeah,
If you have a cheap decoy that's quality plastic or quality foam or whatnot, that maintenance you could do. I mean, it depends on how deep in the lifestyle you want.
yeah,
Where I would say it gets kind of more difficult is when the decoy is actually breaking, because you can only use so much silicone to patch a decoy up before this looks wonky. So you know what I'm saying. So for me, when I'm looking at longevity, is this physical decoy going? Excuse me, but going to break? Or is it going to, when I bang it around, is it just going to get banged up a little bit, but it's going to going to last the abuse. And, yes, the paint might chip, but I could paint that over. I could touch that up. You'll see some of the hardcore decoys brand, where you guys are using them up north and the water's freezing, ice is freezing to the decoys, which ducks hate because it gives off a shine and unnatural look. And they're taking just sticks, almost like logs, and breaking ice on their decoy. I mean, smacking it like it's like the Barry Bonds up to the plate hitting a home run hit, and they're not breaking. I mean, they might get a chip here and there, but they're still usable decoys. So I mean, that's stuff you got to look into and think about. How far do you want to get into this? Are you a guiding, grinding every day? You might need, or are you the weekend warrior? Or are you the guy that goes out once, twice a month, a few times each split? Um,
you're not going out as much. I mean, cheaper decoys are probably gonna be the
yeah,
best. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. I have them, and they work. They do the job. So, um, yeah. So, do you have anything else as far as? All right. So, I mean, I think today was really good. I hope we educated a little bit of people out there, and I hope I definitely got educated a little bit more. I want to thank Val and Honor. We'll thank Tangle Free for sending
tank
Joe's
free.
little his Tangle Free sweater where they get you sweatpants too.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just use. I mean, I bought them. I just use
Oh,
my
you bought them? Okay,
I just use
well,
my discount with them.
um, he is a Tangle Free fanatic. Thank everybody that supported us. If you want to keep supporting us, go ahead and hit subscribe button on your favorite whatever podcast platform, YouTube. That'll help us. That'll help us a whole lot. Get our voice out there. All the service members that are still out there doing what they needed to be doing to obviously protect us.
Yeah,
First responders, police officers, the EMTs, nurses, firefighters, the guys who are out there in going on and doing work out there. So
yeah. I mean, if you do want to support Val and Honor Outdoors, go to the website. Look, you know, you want to donate, donate. But word of mouth, money, land, hunts. You know, everything helps. And then
yeah,
go. I mean, go, I'm not telling you just to go and click and donate money. I mean, if it's your hard-earned money, you do it. Do so. But go and look what we're doing. Look what they're doing for the veterans, the first responders, their families. And it's not just the outdoors that they do. They provide help after the military. They help. We have counselors and resume builders that help transition guys out of the military into new civilian jobs. We have behavioral health um, specialists there and counselors who, hey, sometimes when you have a rough day, someone to talk to that has nothing to do with the military or whatnot. Um, I mean, it's a great organization. I've used them. I'm a board member. I don't know if I say anything. I got voted as a board member for Val and Honor now, and I mean I've worked with them for almost since 2015.
yeah.
I've worked with them and
I mean,
volunteered with them. And, it's a great organization that does great things for veterans, first responders, and their families.
yeah, and especially when it comes into hard times and stuff, and uh, and I'm sure a lot of people have service members or have first responders in their family, and I mean they see what's going on. But I want to give a big shout out to everybody listening, and like always, let Valor not fail. Y'all have a good one.
All right, now I'll take it easy.